Welcome back to another episode of Explore the Spectrum. I'm your host, Jeanetta Bryant, and today we have Keri from First Step Therapy with us. How are you doing today, Keri?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. You're a veteran in this community and helping families, not only with occupational, but with physical, with speech, with occupational therapy. I imagine, and that list extends beyond just the highlight reel, right? You've done things and you've been around the block, and it's so encouraging to have conversations with folks that can be enlightening for our viewers. So, without me saying too much more, how about you bring us up to speed on some of the ways that you got involved in this community and why you're so passionate about what you do?
Okay, so I am the director with First Step Therapy, so I get to travel between our clinics, our sites, many of our community sites out there like daycares, schools, medical centers, and we have 7 clinics. I also go into homes, so I meet a lot of families, but my main job is to bring the services out to the parents, to the families, to the sites. We offer physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, feeding therapy. But what sets us apart is that we have many different therapists with specialized certifications and techniques that they use that they go and get additional training for. We were seeing, you have your run of the mill therapists out there just providing those services, but for instance, like AAC evaluations, parents didn't know where to turn for those, or they were going to the hospitals for feeding therapy, and there were these huge, long wait lists for these services in the hospital. So we have occupational and speech therapists trained in feeding therapy now, so we can provide it in our clinics or in the homes. We have speech therapists that perform the AAC evaluations. We have physical therapists and occupational therapists trained in DMI techniques and the spider cage TheraSuit methods to bring intensive type of therapies to families. So we try to get these type of certifications to set us apart from the other therapy companies in this area. Me personally, I have a son that was diagnosed with autism when he was 7 years old. He's 20 now. That's how I got into the field. I had no idea what occupational therapy was when they handed me a referral for it. And they didn't give me much guidance on what it is either. So what I have tried to do is be that liaison for the parents when they are given these many referrals and have no idea what to do with them. They're feeling very overwhelmed. They don't know where to find the services. So I try to be that connection for them to help them get the services that they need to try to bring down that overwhelming feeling some.
And it's so true so often, and I've been guilty of saying this the entire duration of our journey, is that when you get a diagnosis, quite often you're told, go do early intervention, go do it. And families will say, okay, I want to do it. What is it? Like, what do I need to do? And the acronyms that are real issues in our community, because, we get so used to saying all of these things, and a newly diagnosed family is lost. They're like, they not only don't understand what the acronym stands for, but they don't understand what occupational therapy is. Or you have people that don't understand why their child who is verbal needs speech therapy because it's really comprehension. But you touched on feeding therapy, and we were talking to a family just last night about how important and what a specific area feeding therapy is. So if somebody isn't familiar with that right now, our kids, sometimes because of sensory issues, sometimes because of muscle tone issues, but they may not be able to just sit down and eat according to how you would expect them to, right? Like my daughter was real big on what we ended up calling chipmunking. She would just store food and store food and store food. And then we were like, oh my gosh, she's not eating. She's just putting all that in her cheeks. And it was years that we worked on that. But to know that there's a therapist, and you don't have to go to the hospital, but you can go to a therapist to get this type of trained professional helping you is incredibly important. Do you want to share a little bit about feeding therapy? Because I feel like it's one of those things that people miss. They might have understood occupational or ABA, but feeding therapy sometimes is confusing for folks.
Sure. So feeding therapy, there are multiple different aspects of feeding. I joke that OT gets it to the mouth. Speech and OT both work inside the mouth, and speech gets it down the throat. So when we look at feeding, we look at the different process of it. If the child is having trouble with just using the spoon and fork and actually the motor movement of getting it to the mouth, then you have OT working on that. If they're having sensory issues where they can physically eat, but they are what we would call picky eaters, then we're working inside the mouth. We have then issues with dysphagia where they may have trouble actually swallowing the food because of low muscle tone or something else that's going on inside the throat, or even the musculature of inside the mouth. We're working on all of those. We're evaluating for all of those different aspects, and we're working to introduce foods in order to get your child to eat. It may be that they eat, what I like to call a special diet that many of our autistic children eat, like chicken nuggets, pizza, French fries. They like those, but they're not eating a variety of foods like different fruits and vegetables, or the meats are very tough for them to chew because of the low muscle tone. So we're working on all of that, the sensory and the muscle tone inside the mouth, in order to get them to eat. And sometimes children just at the table.
That's true. No, and it is important for folks to understand the wide variety of therapists. And if they aren't already familiar with all the different tools that are available, they can reach out. They can, it's so good of you to want to help find those resources with them. And the success stories that I imagine that you have up your sleeve are plentiful. But for now, I just need to let our viewers know how to reach you in the future. Is there a best way for them to be able to find out more information? Do you have a website that we can point them towards?
Yes, we do have a website. We also have Instagram pages for each of our clinics and a Facebook page for the company as a whole. I'm very active on Facebook in different groups as well as on our Facebook page. So we have Messenger. I answer any messages that are sent through our Facebook Messenger. So if there's a family out there looking for any of these services, you can contact me directly through there as well.
And so that's it, First Step Therapy. And Keri, it's been really lovely chatting with you. Thank you for joining us today. And for all of our viewers, we hope that you continue to come back as we explore the possibilities.